Yeah, I'm just doing a little catch-up work here. Um, Basically, this particular video, majority of it is going to deal with Harry Belafonte and his comments. Um, for those of you who don't know it, Harry Belafonte has been a civil rights activist for his entire life. Now, his name wasn't out there like Dr. King and various others, but he was in the background. He helped to finance a lot of the civil rights activists, and a lot of people didn't know it. And he did suffer somewhat from it because when it was discovered what he was doing, he was denied certain roles on TV and in movies because of his actions. But he was steadfast in support of our people. So I'm going to play the entire clip from All In with Chris Hayes, which is going to include the daughter of Eric Garner, and then a major commentary by Mr. Belafonte.
I'm never giving up. I'm never going to forget, and I don't want the world to forget what happened to my dad. Our people died for this. Martin Luther King died for this. Malcolm X died for this. And who were they? They was protesters. I believe Bernie Sanders is a protester.
When a police officer breaks the law, that officer must be held accountable.
As part of a new web ad released by the Bernie Sanders campaign, it might also be going off the air sometime soon, in which Erica Garner, the daughter of Eric Garner, who died in a police chokehold in 2014, explains why she is supporting Sanders, specifically calling him a protester. Sanders' history of fighting for civil rights, beginning with demonstrations in college, is something his campaign has tried to emphasize. And while that record was somewhat brushed aside by the legendary civil rights protester John Lewis, current congressman, yesterday, it was affirmed by another historic activist in that fight, Harry Belafonte.
That's why I have endorsed Bernie Sanders. I think he represents opportunity. I think he represents a moral imperative. I think he represents a certain kind of truth that's not often evidenced in the course of politics.
Joining me now, artist, performer, civil rights activist, legend, if I can say it, Harry Belafonte. It's wonderful to have you here, sir.
Good to be with you, Chris.
Talk to me about this decision you made both to not just vote for Bernie Sanders, but to actively endorse him and cut a video and be a public face advocating for him.
In my time, this time in life, much of it is spent among the young people, particularly in incarceration. Here in New York State, I'm up in Sing Sing all the time. I'm out in California with Tracy of California and the Latino community, the black community down in L.A., Women's Detention Center. And I take the incarceration to be one of the last truly deep wrinkles in the American theme of what we've done to crucify young people, not only in the process of putting them in prison, but what happens to them after they come out. Unemployment, can't vote. It's a cruel place in which to be. And when the interest turned to black vote and the emphasis was put on mass incarceration, I got very concerned because I think that there was a previous administration which had a lot to do with escalating incarceration for black people. And then I heard this remark being made that there's this concern for the fact that we're the largest prison population in the world and we must do something about that. Well, how deep does that really go?
Can I ask you this, just to interject in this moment, because you're referring to the Clinton administration,
yes.
And I want you to respond to what people say about this critique, which is, that was Bill Clinton, he signed the crime bill, that was not Hillary Clinton, and also things have changed in 20 years. We've recognized the problem. Those were mistakes. We can correct them now.
Well, you just hit the nail on the head. If you can correct them now, why not? We will not get into the family affairs if we were asking you to say something that's pro your husband. But what about the grievous mistakes that he made? Like, where's your courage to speak out against that? But I don't want to hold her hostage to that either. The point is that if she says she is for ending mass incarceration, but she's for capital punishment, that does not really tell the deeper truth on what happens with the whole issue of incarceration. The other thing, of course, is pandering to you in very strange ways to the black vote, and taking claim to being very much and deeply involved in the civil rights movement, as some candidates maintain they were. And I say, well, give me the demonstration of what that involvement yielded. There have been an attack on Bernie Sanders for not being visible in the civil rights movement. Well, there are a lot of people involved in the civil rights movement. Millions of them came to the March on Watch. I don't remember the names of most of them. I never even met them. Wouldn't know them if I saw them in the day of light, in the light of day. But a close friend of mine talked about the fact that Bernie Sanders was not to be seen anywhere in the civil rights movement.
You're referring to, I just want to, for folks that did not follow, John Lewis, who himself, of course, a civil rights legend, worked with SNCC, the famous Edmund Pettus Bridge, and said something about Sanders the other day to the extent of, I never saw him.
Well, he never saw most of the people in the civil rights movement that were engaged. And in particular, Bernie Sanders had no platform back in he didn't become mayor until 1981. Dr. King was assassinated in 1968. By 1980, the civil rights movement was blending into a host of other issues. It was, for all intents and purposes, considered to be the end of the era. Well, if Bernie Sanders didn't have a platform, why would you know him as a face of thousands and millions of people out there? So I thought it was a little unfair to suggest that there may be some duplicitous game being played here with Bernie Sanders by saying he was for and involved in the civil rights movement. He was. I've met with him, I've talked with him. He's not misleading. He didn't claim to be a leader of the civil rights movement. He said he was deeply touched by it and involved in it. And that is part of what has energized him to become a candidate for the presidency. I just felt on that issue, incarceration, the black vote, civil rights, was a place for me to step in and let my voice be heard for whatever good it will do.
If the past record is any evidence, it'll do a lot of good. Mr. Belafonte, it's always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you very much.
I enjoy being with you, Chris.
There's nothing more to be said. Anybody that is attacking Bernie Sanders needs to look at this video and then make their case. And I normally don't ask this, but for all of you that have seen this video, I'm asking that you share this video with everybody that you know, and in particular the people in South Carolina, because in my mind, Hillary Clinton does not deserve the black vote. And actually, she really, in my opinion, doesn't deserve anybody's vote, because she's in the pockets of the big banks and the pharmaceutical companies, etc. And I believe Bernie's heart is in the right place. Now, do I think that he can get everything done that that he's talking about? Probably not. Okay, but do I believe he's going to try to get everything done that he's talking about? Absolutely. It's my opinion that nothing major is going to be done from 2017 through 2019. The reason I say this is because the 2016 election is probably going to see the Senate flip back to being Democratic, and it will stay that way at least through 2020 to 2022. On the other hand, the House of Representatives in 2016 is not going to flip back to being Democratic. But it is my opinion that the House will be able to be flipped back to majority Democratic in 2018 and will definitely be majority Democratic in 2020, especially given the lawsuits regarding gerrymandering and also the 2020 census coming into play. But again, I ask anybody and everybody that views this video to please share it with everybody that you know, and in particular the people of Nevada and South Carolina, because the rhetoric that John Lewis is spewing absolutely needs to be countered.